Join the Craig Levitt Show Sunday evenings from 7 to 8 p.m. on 50,000 Watt News Talk 720 KDWN. The Craig Levitt Hour will be about living the American dream and empowering the American spirit. Sundays, 7 to 8 p.m.
No.
Good morning. It's Monday morning. It's 11 a.m.
And another beautiful day in Mesquite.
That's exactly what we have, and it's the Craig Levitt Show, starring, of course, my technical and promotional director, Christopher Finnegan, and I'm his sidekick, Craig Levitt. Wow, it's a beautiful... I love Mesquite. How can you not? Last night on our radio show on KDWN, we had Terry Narens, who is... she is the heartthrob of everything that takes place right here in Mesquite, Nevada. She was just absolutely uncontrollable. Her energy and her enthusiasm and her zeal, not only for what she does with community theater and the community events calendar and writing in the newspaper, but just her whole enthusiasm about Mesquite is
infectious.
Well, it is infectious. That's a good word. And I hope they don't come up, with a vaccine against it, because we could all use a little bit more of that energy. And she certainly lit up our place, didn't she?
She most certainly did. She was a wonderful guest.
And I'll tell you, she's just a wonderful lady, and every community needs a Terry.
At least one.
Yeah, because without Terry, she keeps, the interdenominational activities and events, on tap. Community theater and all of the little clubs. They've got the Mosquitoes, and they've got they're a dance club, and then they've got a senior citizen beauty pageant. And by the way, I probably made some inappropriate jokes about that, and if I offended anybody, then put both a thumb in each ear, wiggle your fingers, stick out your tongue, and go and pay me back. And I apologize. I think it's terrific, all of the things that they do here in Mesquite, Nevada, that I've never really seen in other small towns anywhere.
It's pretty unique.
Have you ever really had someone tell you all the things that they're doing and know, what's percolating in the community around you?
Not with her level of enthusiasm and detail.
She's something. She is really something. And this town is really something.
It is.
And we're rather enjoying ourselves as we get introduced to Mesquite, Nevada, and have a chance to meet the people, talk to the people. I think I told something funny last night. If you didn't get a chance to hear it, I'm very humble. Everybody knows that. And I have worked for years to conquer my pride and to be, the actual ideal of humility. And I've worked so hard becoming humble that I have finally achieved that pinnacle of total humility. And I got to tell you, I am so proud of it. But at any rate, we were talking last night, and I always love to pay tribute to my veterans. I say my veterans because I am a veteran of the United States Air Force. P-Dub, my best friend in Las Vegas, I would suspect, he's a distinguished and decorated veteran of the Army.
Most certainly.
He has the Bronze Star for heroism. I can't even wrap my head around the kind of man that P-Dub is and what he had to do to be recognized for heroic heroic acts. Well, last night I tried to play the Air Force hymn first, and that's the way it should be. The Air Force should always lead the way. And then before news break, I really messed up the Army song, and over heel over there as we hit the dusty trail, and that one. And after the news break, we played the Navy song, anchors away, that one. And then afterward, I apologized to everybody for messing up the Army song. And then I said, but it doesn't really matter because nobody likes the Army. Well, let me explain that, because I've had hate mail today. We love the Army. There's nothing about the Army we don't like. But prior to 1947, we were the Army Air Corps. We belonged to the Army. And the Army troops hated the Air Force, the Air Corps, because the pilots and the navigators and all of the crew, for the airplanes got to sleep in really nice facilities. And the ground troops for the Army were sleeping in tents on cots, and they got different kinds of food than the flyboys got. And so there's always been sort of this little tete-a-tete sibling rivalry between the flyboys and the ground troops of the United States Army. Well, in 1947, then the United States Air Force was made its own department. And so now the Air Force has even better stuff, and the Army hates us. And so there's this sort of thing that goes back and forth between the Army and the Air Force, and it's all in good fun, because I tell you what, when we get into action, we are all brothers and sisters. So we are having some fun. And by the way, it's not just the Army and the Air Force. Back when the Navy was first started, I think it was John Adams that actually commissioned our Navy, but when our Navy was commissioned, it was because our merchant ships, as they would, travel around the world, were getting ambushed by pirates. And so part of the Navy was made a ground fighting force, and that was the Marine Corps. So they were part of the Navy, still are, part of the Department of the Navy, which is why they do not have a commanding general or admiral, but they have a commandant. And so all of the time, the Marines, they would go out on the boats, and they happened to go to Tripoli, on the northern coast of Africa, and that's where the pirates had set up their little, buccaneer town or whatever it was, and it was the Marines that went in and cleaned up the pirates, there in the Mediterranean. And that's why they say, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. And so now the Navy and the Marines have this sibling rivalry, and it's all in good fun. I mean, they laugh. Did any of you out there, are you paying attention? Okay. Did any of you out there happen to see the movie with Jack Nicholson? It was called A Few Good Men. Do you remember seeing that?
I did. It was a good movie.
It was a great movie. And when Tom Cruise was at Guantanamo Bay, which was under the command of the Marine Corps, and he was a Navy lawyer, member of the JAG Corps, Judge Advocate General Corps. Anyway, Kiefer Sutherland, who played a Marine lieutenant, he and Tom Cruise's character just didn't get along, and so Tom Cruise's character said, have I done something to offend you? And Kiefer Sutherland, in his role, said, no. We like you Navy boys. Every time we're going to go fight, you give us a ride. So please, take away the hate mail. I'm too old for it. I'll have a stroke. But that is why I made a little bit of fun of the Army last night. It was totally tasteless, totally inappropriate. For those of you that don't understand that relationship, the sibling rivalry between the Army and the Air Force and the Navy and the Marines, And by the way, it's starting now between the Navy aviators flying off aircraft carriers and the Air Force pilots. There's a little rivalry going on there. So we absolutely love all of our veterans. When P-Dub and I get together, it's really funny because he'll tell all of his friends, this is Craig Levitt. He's on the radio, and he's an Air Force guy. You know what that means. And so, there's no offense taken between veterans. We all understand, we love each other, and I hope that you'll understand how much Christopher and I love our veterans.
Yes, we do.
Tomorrow's Veterans Day. Tomorrow, I hope you'll fly a flag and find a veteran. I don't care if you have to, after work, don't go home until you've walked every street in town, till you've knocked on every door. Find a veteran and tell them thank you for their service, because their service is what makes it possible for us to enjoy the way of life that we do. And people say, well, yeah, but we really haven't had anybody attack us since, 1812. Well, that may be true, but when we fight our battles on foreign soil, we are making it possible that we don't have to fight them here on our own. And so when our troops go to Afghanistan, when they go to Korea, when they go to Vietnam, when they go to Iraq, when they go fight for freedom anywhere, they are helping ensure that those fights do not take place in Chicago, in Detroit, in Los Angeles, in Utah, in Nevada, in Texas. And so, no matter where they're fighting, no matter where our military is being used, they deserve our respect. And I think the people that were disrespectful of the soldiers coming home from Vietnam, whether it's here or whether it's in the Day of Judgment, they will have to answer, for the way they treated our military people. But hey, by the way, you guys want to know a good movie? If you want to know a good movie to watch, raise your hands. There's a movie that came out a few years ago. It actually starred Kevin Bacon, the man who is of Footloose, fame and fortune. And so I was a little, it's called Taking Chance. And it had a picture of him in the Marine officer's uniform, and I thought, I don't know that I want to get into this, because what's it going to be? He is an officer in the United States Marine Corps, and he holds a dance, and he shows everybody how to do, Footloose, that sort of thing. But my wife, I think we were at Walmart or at, that's what it was. She was at Walmart, and they have those big bins where you can get $5 movies. That's supposedly all of the movies, DVDs, that are not selling well, so they put them in this big old round thing and charge $5 for them. So she picked up this DVD, Taking Chance. And she said, you want to watch it? And I said, nah, I just can't see Kevin Bacon as a Marine. So we watched it, because my opinion really doesn't matter. Oftentimes my wife and my daughters pay me the respect of asking my opinion, but then after I've given it,
It's nice to be asked, though.
It is nice to be asked. So we watched it. You know what it is? It's about a young soldier who was killed in Afghanistan. It was Iraq, excuse me. And it showed the whole process from this young boy who was killed performing an act of incredible bravery for which he was posthumously decorated. And he went from there, his body was taken to Ramstein, Germany, which is where all the bodies of both the wounded and the deceased are taken. And then he was flown to Dover Air Force Base on the East Coast, where they have the big military mortuary. And it showed how this boy was treated with the respect, with the profound reverence that this and all fallen soldiers are treated. It was such a heart-rending thing to see. And then Kevin Bacon had served a couple of duties. He was a high-ranking officer in the Marine Corps. And he asked for the assignment to take this young boy's body to escort it back to his home. And so normally they will have somebody of a lower rank or somebody, do that. But he volunteered for it. And so he was granted permission, and they showed what it took, the respect at an airport when the casket was transported from one plane to another, the profound respect of the people in the airport. And I watched that show, and I just thought, everybody in America on Veterans Day ought to watch Taking Chance. It is the most incredible. So what I did, I gave my one copy to all my friends and family, and somebody still has it. So I went back to the $5 bin, and there were a couple of more copies of Taking Chance, and so I got those so that I can always have a copy. But I want to tell you, when you see how the veterans treat the veterans and how the military treats their fallen comrades, I mean, friends, it is the most mind-sobering experience. And there is not a veteran who does not deserve to be respected and honored and revered and thanked with sincere hearts and feelings of gratitude for the service that they have performed. I know what you're saying right now. Yeah, there are lots of veterans that get benefits. And yes, they've got this and this and this. And that's true. And many veterans have become successful businessmen and women and have gone on with their lives. But there is something that happens to a human being when his life is being threatened by someone shooting at him or her and dropping bombs to kill them, and then the person right next to you or to him is killed. Or you happen to see yourself firing a weapon and a young man from another country who also has a family, who also has a heritage, falls dead to the ground. Those things don't come out of your mind. And this thing called post-traumatic stress disorder is real. And so some of the GIs, some of the veterans that you're going to see standing on the corners of the street, they're homeless. They're jobless. They're, in many cases, hopeless because of the things that they experienced defending the flag that we raise in honor of our great country. Have I gone off on a tangent there a little bit, Christopher?
I think you're right on point.
I just think that when we're driving our fancy cars and living in beautiful homes and having 3 square meals a day on round plates, I never did get what the 3 square meant, because all of our plates were always round. And you have school, and you have clothing, and you have opportunities galore in this great country. Some of our veterans have been permanently damaged because of what they saw, what they did, and what they experienced in battle. I know that John Wayne and Kirk Douglas and all these movie stars made heroic movies about the heroes of battle, but they didn't show. They've never made a movie. Well, except maybe Forrest Gump, when the lieutenant that he served under was disabled, and how he reacted to civilian life after his release from the military, and how Forrest Gump did. But some people just cannot get it back together. I had a music teacher at Roosevelt Junior High School in Salt Lake City, Utah. Joe Layton was his name. He was a good musician and a great teacher, but he was always depressed. And so I played the trumpet and was called upon a couple of times to be the bugler at a military funeral. And so I would go and do that. And so Joe Layton and I got to be, I don't know that teachers and students are ever friends, but we had an affable relationship. And I asked him one day, I came into the music room after school, and he was sitting slumped over his desk with his hands in front of him, gripped together so that they were white. He was gripping himself so hard. And I said, Joe, no, I didn't. I was never that impertinent. Yeah, I was, but not with him. I said, Mr. Layton, are you all right? And he looked up at me, and there were tears in his eyes. And I said, sir, are you all right? And he shook his head yes, and then very slowly shook it no. But he asked me to sit down, and we were talking, and he was telling me about the events in World War II when he was a drafted GI, and how he had to, at one time, they were overrun by the Japanese, and there was nowhere to hide. There was nowhere to go. His friends were dropping around him. This was not on Iwo Jima, but it was on one of the, I think it was Wake Island, but it's been a lot of years and I don't have that good a memory. But anyway, and he was telling me about how it was just merciless, and he looked up and there was a Japanese soldier standing over him with a bayonet in his rifle, ready to stab him, and my friend, the music teacher, out of sheer instinct, sheer force of preservation, turned and shot at this Japanese soldier, and the Japanese soldier fell into the foxhole where Joe was. And he looked at him, and he said the kid was 19, 20 years of age, and the same as he was. And there, but for the grace of God, Joe would have been lying in the foxhole dying. And he reached out, Joe did, and took this young man's hand. And the young man gripped his hand and then died. And Joe could never get out of his mind that he had taken a human life, because that was no longer a soldier. That was a young man carrying the bullet he had fired, gripping his hand as the last mortal act before he died. About 2 years after that was in the late 1950s, so it was about a decade and a half after the end of World War II. But it was only a couple of years later that I read in the newspaper that my good friend, Joe Layton, had committed suicide. He was never, and I'm not trying to say anything. There's so many of our veterans that just can't take it anymore. And you say, well, take what? I mean, the war's over. Go on. Get on with it. Get on with your life. But it's not like breaking up with a girlfriend. There are things that veterans experience nightly in their dreams that they experienced in real life in Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, all through. And so, if ever there was a time when the admonition in the Bible, judge not, that ye be not judged, matters, it is when you look at a veteran on the street corner and then you say to yourself, why didn't he get a job? Why doesn't he do something? Why doesn't he go to the VA? Because the VA will take care of him if he can prove through his DD Form 214 that he's a veteran. Some of our veterans are so angry at the government because of the fact the government did not stand up for them and stick up for them when they were in Vietnam and in other places, They don't want anything from the government. They would rather sit on a street corner begging and relying on the largesse of the citizenry rather than go and get one more penny worth of benefits from the government. I had another friend who was a Marine. No, he was Army, excuse me. He was a military policeman. And he talked about in Vietnam how they would get into firefights. And what that means is you'd have a squad of North Vietnamese and a squad of, the combined forces of the South Vietnamese and the United States and England and others. But there'd be a small squad, and they would just sit and shoot at each other. And, he said sometimes he'd just take his .45 out of his pistol out of his holster, get down low and just reach up and just shoot. Didn't care. He just was shooting. Hopefully he hit something. I learned from him, he is the most incredible man. I learned from him that at night, when he goes to sleep, 2 or 3 times every single night, he hears a noise and he jumps because that same noise in Vietnam meant that the enemy was infiltrating. So, gosh, I'm sorry to get off. You think I'm off on it today?
Wait till
yeah, I'll need to wait till tomorrow when it actually is Veterans Day. But give our veterans a big hug and a how do you do, and please understand that my insensitivity towards my Army comrades was just that. I was just funning over a very serious subject. It was inappropriate, and even though that's what all of us do when we veterans get together at a dinner or something else, we always say, I butt in line a lot, and they say, yeah, that's just like the Air Force, coming, or these kinds of things. So to you who are in the Army, were in the Army, had loved ones who were in the Army, please accept my heartfelt apology if I was offensive. I didn't mean to be. I would never offend my dear friend P-Dub. I would never offend the memory of any veteran or the family of veterans who lost a father, a brother, a sister, a grandmother, a mother, whatever, in the line of duty. I'm going to tell you one story that is... No, I'm not. That's just too grisly, and I don't want to start this day off. But please understand my love for the veterans. So did you have a good weekend, Christopher?
I did have a good weekend.
What'd you do?
Well, I went for a walk. I haven't done that in a while. Got to see some of the Mesquite, Nevada areas up close in person. You can't really appreciate it unless you're on the ground on your feet. Usually I just drive around. Really appreciate being able to be out there on my feet.
It's incredible. I think, what was it, Friday or Thursday last week, we talked about the spirit of Mesquite.
Yeah.
How when you're here, there is something other than just, here's a town, I guess I got to get gas. Maybe we'll pull over here and eat at McDonald's because that's universal. What could be special about that? But when you're out walking around this place, or last night was such a gorgeous night. I just stood outside and took it all in. Moon was beautiful. The stars were out. Temperature was absolutely covetous. I mean, it was just incredible. And just enjoyed the spirit, as you did, the spirit of Mesquite. And I've driven through Mesquite a gazillion times going from Utah to Las Vegas or to Disneyland or somewhere, points west. And I've driven back from points west to points east, going past. And some couple of times I thought, we got to stop here at Mesquite. But we're only 28 miles from St. George. Let's just keep on going. And then we're only 50 miles to Cedar City and wherever else we're going. So, let's just going through. I don't see much here. Wow. Was I ever wrong? And didn't Terry last night just set us all straight?
She did. I made the same mistake. I drove just past it. Didn't even realize it was a town.
Yeah. I saw the casinos, the 3 biggest buildings in town, the Eureka, the Virgin River and the Casablanca. And I just thought, all this is just a place to stop and gamble. So we just kept on going through.
Exactly.
But it is just so much more if you actually get out of your car, and go for a walk. Wow. And I've told so many people, I get folks from Southern California, from actually almost as high as San Francisco. But we get people who really love what we're saying about Mesquite, Nevada. Because when you're in a town of 11 million like Los Angeles, or you're in a town that absorbs your soul, you lose this idea that perhaps there's something that you're missing in life, a quality of life that is inestimable. And that quality of life you can feel right here in Mesquite.
And if you're going to go on vacation, a lot of people think they're going to go to Vegas and then they'll use that as their home base. They'll go to all the amenities and check out stuff from Vegas. They're doing it what I would say is the incorrect way.
Do you know why people go to Las Vegas? And I'm going to get hammered for this because, we're a Las Vegas radio personality. People go to Las Vegas from outside of Las Vegas to sin. They go there to gamble and do all the things that they can't do at home because their neighbors would kill them. And that's why people go to Las Vegas. Now, there are many, the entertainment is great. People go to see the stars. I think there's an advertisement somewhere about Mesquite being what Las Vegas used to be.
I believe that.
But let me tell you, this is not Sin City. There are no more Americans anywhere per population size to match what we have here. I mean, have you seen that 1,000 flag display?
I have not, but I want to go see it. It's on my calendar.
Well, it shouldn't be on your calendar. It should actually be on your itinerary, and you
there you go.
We ought to do a live shot from there.
Sounds like a good idea.
Sometime we ought to, I think. But see, you people in Las Vegas, you have your way of celebrating. But here in Mesquite, they have this beautiful 1,000 American flag display that, well, when you go through it, it chokes you. I mean, you actually feel something. And the majority of being American, folks, is being able to feel American. I mean, America is about feelings. And sometimes we lose those feelings. Sometimes we forget that it was the feelings of the patriots that got us this country to begin with, and the feelings of our soldiers that preserve it. And when you go through this 1,000 flag display, oh, my mother's children, that actually makes you feel something. And it's been a long time since people outside of Mesquite have had those kinds of very reverent, very respectful, poignant, types of feelings. Well, you got to go to it, you bum.
They do.
You!
I gotta go to it too.
And so do I. By the way, I haven't been there yet. I've driven by it several times and parked and looked at it and got that feeling. But I think tonight, every Monday night is what we call family home evening. It's where our family just stays home and we have a nice evening together. We read the scriptures, we sing songs. My family loves to hear me play the guitar. And I do want you to know that I sing international and certainly songs from far and wide. I can play on both the ukulele and on my guitar, lovely hula hands. So, I mean, we do that sort of thing. And then we go out and get a treat. And we always go to McDonald's over here on West Mesquite Boulevard. And they got the neatest people there. The other night, we were late. They were closing up. And yet they let us in and let us just stay and enjoy ourselves until they were all cleaned up and all standing there looking at us. Which, by the way, if you're ever somewhere after closing and eventually the entire staff is standing there looking at you, take the hint. It's time to go. Now, I said to these wonderful people over at that McDonald's, I said, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, they said, no. You just take your time. You just enjoy yourselves. No, really, you guys got to go home. No, we're fine. And I bought it. So we stayed about another 15 minutes, and I watched people in the back of the kitchen area pacing back and forth, and I thought, oh, I've overextended my welcome, just like I did last night when I made my military sibling comment about the Army. And so hats off to the people of this McDonald's. And I know every McDonald's is good, and I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody. But this group of people, they're a hoot. They just, anyway. And so we do that on Monday nights. Well, this Monday night, that would be tonight, for our family home evening, are going to go and look at the 1,000 flag display. We may even take you along with us.
Yeah, I'd be more than willing to go.
Well, then it's set.
It's set.
And the rest of you out there, get it set. Go look at this marvelous display. And you folks of ours, friends of ours, acquaintances of ours, listeners in Southern California and Las Vegas, Nevada, and all over our listening area, if you got some time, zip on over. You don't zip, it's 80 miles away from Las Vegas, but it's only 30 miles away from St. George. And plan a little day trip. Come in to Mesquite, Nevada, and I want to tell you something. If you come here to play, you will stay. If you just come here and experience Mesquite, Nevada, you're going to become a mosquito. I love this place. I'm excited about it. And I know that Christopher is too. And I know that, for heaven's sakes, Terry is.
Yes, she is. And we have to thank Terry for letting us know about that flag display that we all need to go see.
Yeah. And for so many other things. I mean, she went through a whole litany of events. You never hear that in the bigger cities. I mean,
no,
you don't have somebody on the radio stations. Now, the TV stations, they will pick one or two major events. Radio stations, one or two events. Now, for example, we support and are supported by the Speedway Children's Charity. And so they let us know about all of their events, and we let them know about the events that we do. But I'm telling you this, Terry, and she prints it in the newspaper. She has a column there, and she's always advertising Mesquite. And I tell you, she does one incredible job. I guess I could spend the whole hour, and almost have, talking about how much we love Mesquite. And I would, if I had the opportunity to bring everybody on a field trip from Las Vegas, from Anaheim, California, from San Diego, from St. George, all the way over to Denver. If I could just get 1 million buses and have a giant field trip, and all of us come to Mesquite, Nevada, we'd go home with more empty buses than we came with full.
No, the buses would just stay.
Yeah, they just change the name of their busing company to Mesquite Tours.
Exactly.
And what a great thing, And I have never met anyone who has come to Mesquite and really experienced Mesquite that didn't curse the place they were living and want to be here. And so we have a population that is now coming into Mesquite that really is about 3/4 of our population. And it's the avian society known as the snowbirds. And when it gets colder than a well digger's parakeet up north, then what happens is these snowbirds, just like ducks and geese who take off, they're migratory, they fly to a warmer climate because, no goose wants to be geesed in ice. I could have said no, the geese don't want to be goose, but see, that would have been inappropriate. So stuck with what I got. And these snowbirds, they come from Canada, Montana, from everywhere. I met some folks the other day that had come from Wisconsin. And you know why they come to Mesquite? Because it's not Florida. We don't have the big mosquitoes here. We don't have gangs. We don't have danger and crime and alligators. Hey, I will tell you something. You go from Tampa to Miami, Tampa Bay to Miami, it's a long road. It's called Alligator Alley. And it isn't named that because that's where they sell shoes and suitcases and handbags made out of the reptile skin. No. You're driving down the road. The Eagles should have sung a song, but, well, I was driving down the road trying to loosen my load, and I ran across an alligator. And you see these enormous reptiles and amphibians, the alligators and snakes. Can I say that they have snakes there that put fire hoses to shame? And mosquitoes so big you give them a tail number and landing instructions. And so the people from Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan, they don't want to go down to Florida. Why? Not a good place. Have you ever been to Orlando, gone out to eat in one of the finer restaurants, and you get a pitcher of water that is yellow? And people say, no, I would rather have anything else. And if you drink that water, it doesn't taste like water. Now, if you haven't all, come to grips with this, I'm a little Mormon boy, so I don't drink alcohol, but I was tempted in Orlando. So these people up north, where it's colder than a well-digger's cat, migrate where?
Down to?
Some of the less faithful drop off in St. George. Some of the even less faithful go to Arizona, which is just a dry Florida. They got reptiles down there too that are really unfriendly, and their sense of style is so bad because they shake their behind and it rattles, and if you don't pay adequate attention, they bite you. And they have Gila monster. Anyway, the chosen frozen want to come to Mesquite. I mean, folks, this place, if you come here to play, you'll stay. We know people that are up in Salt Lake and Ogden, Utah, and some of these colder places. And when I see them down here golfing, and I see them come for softball tournaments, and I see them coming to participate in what Mesquite has, I say, well, you know what it's like when your teenage kids have friends that come over and keep staying. They don't get the hint, that a good visit is a short visit. No, they stay until you finally have to say, will you go home? Do you live here? Are you paying rent here? Well, that's what it's like for these quasi-snowbirds, the weekend warmers, these who come down here to take advantage of our goodness and the largesse of our spirit and our environment. And you almost have to tell them, okay, it's time to go. I don't know how many people we really want staying here.
Yeah, well, that was my concern. People are going to listen to us and they're going to come and stay, and then what do we do?
I think what we do is we wear black ski hats and we go around and we paint their tires pink or something.
There you go.
Something. And ladies, don't get mad at me. I could have said green, and then the Irish would have gotten mad at me. I could have said red. I'll say red, because if they're a communist, they're going to get mad at me. This will bring them out. Right? So
there you go.
You need to know this is not what I had planned for the radio show today. Wasn't it? But I have just been so overwhelmed. When we actually saw that 1,000 flag display, oh, my mother's children. And we felt that quiver of patriotism and oneness. I mean, while the United States is not made strong by our unity, it's made strong by our diversity coming together. And it just felt good. It just felt... Hey, those of you that keep coming to Mesquite just for a day or two, keep coming. We need your money. But, you know, it's against the law to visit realtors unless you know what I'm saying? If you're just going to come down here and play and have fun, then go back to the cold because you're not yet converted to goodness, you know, keep coming, you know, and bring your nickels, dimes, quarters, and dollars and play on our golf courses and have some fun down here. But you know, what we're looking for to move in, if I got to find me a realtor down here who will take up the cause and help us bring just the best people possible from, well, let's call it what it is, Sin City, you know, and bring it from there all the way up to here, to this place where they can have as much fun as you'll ever have in Las Vegas. But to our listening audience in Las Vegas, okay, we love you and love what you do, but we love our new home right here in Mesquite, Nevada. That's so cool. I love it. I love it. This is going to be a good week. We're going to introduce a few new topics. We're going to have some fun with our listeners. A few years ago, Leanne and I wrote a couple of books that were picked up by a national publisher and sent worldwide. I don't know why. But they are great little books. They're books of original poetry, essays, short stories, quotes, you know, things like that. The first book is entitled A Buffet of Happiness. Great little book. It is a lot of fun. And our second one is possibly the best book I've ever read. Humbly, yes, I wrote it, and so yes, humbly. But as part of the literati, or part of the Writers Guild, or part of the Truly Inspired, I can say that this is a fun book. And it is entitled How to Drive the Devil Nuts. I think one of the ways you drive you nuts is to just stay here in a pleasant place like Mesquite and enjoy it. But anyway, this week and next, we're going to have some fun. And we also have another little book that's called Christmas Happiness. And we're going to give some of those away as prizes right here on the Craig Levitt Show. And maybe a couple of other fun things. Well, I'll tell you what. This doesn't happen frequently, folks. But I just love our show today. And I'm out of things to say. I can't say any more about this marvelous little town, and I can't say anything more about the marvelous people that live here. I can't say anything more about the veterans whom I love, every branch of the service. And by the way, yes, we played the Air Force hymn, you know, the Army song, the Navy song, the Marines hymn. We don't want to forget our Coast Guard. And we will be including them this week as well. So, from the Craig Levitt Show, right here on a remote location in Mesquite, Nevada, I'm Craig Levitt, wishing you a wonderful day, a happy week, and be sure to say hi to our veterans.
And I'm Chris Finnegan, and I wish all of you the best of luck.